Pat, what about from your seat, man? What have you seen? What surprised you from this offense recently?
Well, it's funny, you look at last night's game, and it was kind of a measuring stick game considering how well Orlando had been playing and the style that they play. Really good defense, physical team. And I know they're missing their best player in Paolo Banchero, but he isn't the cog to those specific aspects. And then Orlando comes out, they knock down a couple threes. It's 9-2, it's 14-6, and you're wondering, all right, is this going to be one of the nights where the Knicks offense gets slowed down? And the middle of that first quarter, they just took off. And James hit on a lot of the points. The ball movement has been unbelievable, led by Jalen Brunson. I think there's been an increased emphasis on being a distributor this season because he has so many more offensive options, namely Karl Anthony Towns, and then OG Anunoby can get going. Mikal Bridges has found his shot the last couple of games. There is, a grittiness that persists with this team in the form of Hart and a little bit of Anunoby and McBride coming off the bench. So, they can get you in a number of different ways. The ball movement is very aesthetically pleasing. And then they haven't lost, what made them successful for large portions of last year, which is that grittiness. So when the ball doesn't go in the basket, there's a chase after the ball, a concerted effort to extend the possession that has also benefited the offensive numbers.
I give Jalen Brunson some credit here because I think early on in the season, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I did see him dribbling the ball throughout a possession and maybe kind of forcing up a contested shot here or there in some of those early games. And that's, I think, has been out of his diet more recently. And he's really distributed the ball well. He's found cutters. He's found guys who've been open, and he's found ways to attack a defense when he's single covered. And if you look at his numbers, best assist percentage so far of his career, really strong assist to turnover ratio. He's top 10 in both marks among players who play at least 30 minutes. And you look at this Knicks offense, the assist to turnover ratio is the best in the NBA, as are the points per 100 possessions. So I think Brunson is the guy who's made this go by maybe sacrificing a few shots and looking for his teammates a little bit more often. James, have you seen the same thing or something different?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think early on, I don't want to say Jalen looked lost, but he looked like he was figuring out what to do with these new pieces. And I think as the season started to ramp up and we got toward the end of the preseason, we talked a lot about how does Cat fit into this, how all these things are going to benefit Jalen Brunson when time happens. But it's also like Jalen has to adapt to this new group too, and I don't think we really factored that in. This is a much different roster than what he played with last year. Not saying good or bad. I'm saying it's just different. Like it was a Brunson-centric offense last year, and to a point it still is, right? But there's so many weapons now that he has to find a way to get everybody involved and to make the right read at the right time and also just make life easier on himself. And I think as the season's gone on, he's found a way to make life easier on himself, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Pat, how about you on Brunson over the course of this season, this first 21 games?
His overall game is so much more efficient, and I think it took him a few games to adjust to his new life with all of these weapons. I mean, think about the last time we saw Brunson on the floor last year in that Indiana series where he had to take 25 and upward shots a game because he was the fulcrum of the Knicks offense. It took him 5 or 6 games to adjust to that this year. He's adjusted very well. His efficiency numbers are all better across the board. He's taking 3 fewer field goal attempts per game, but his field goal percentage is up. His 3-point percentage is up. His free throw percentage is up. His minutes per game are down. His assists are up. His assist to turnover ratio is the best of his career. So across the board, just in terms of efficiency, because he has adapted pretty quickly. I mean, the first 5 or 6 games when that's all that we had to go by, that period of time that James just alluded to where, he got off to a little bit of a slow start. We saw it. But he broke out of that. He snapped out of that pretty quickly. And, he's as good as ever. He's as efficient as ever. But it's different than the type of player I think that we saw, especially last year.
It does seem like a different version of Brunson. And even with that slow start, he does lead the NBA right now in overall plus minus. I think he's a plus 608 on the year. And I think, just looking at this thing objectively, if you're Brunson and you are the face of the Knicks, you're the captain of the Knicks, you're coming off a season where, really 2 seasons where you've led this team to the second round of the playoffs, place where they hadn't been in so long, and then you add some pieces, right? I could see the human element of a player maybe saying, I still want to get mine. I still want to take my shots and kind of let these guys fit around me. And to Brunson's credit, I mean, he's just a smart player, right? Tom Thibodeau talks about it all the time, how Brunson can adapt to different situations. And even Jamal Mosley, the Magic coach who coached Brunson in Dallas as a top assistant, has talked about how he can adjust to a defense. And he really keeps defenses guessing because you put 2 on him, he can take advantage of that. You single cover him, he takes advantage of that. So I always felt like he was going to be able to adjust and ultimately fit in a way that made sense for this team. I'm just impressed with the way that he's done it so quickly. I just think other players, maybe their ego gets in the way. It takes a little bit longer, but here we are, game 21, a quarter of the way through the season, and this offense is playing pretty seamlessly right now.